It's not only Russia buying gold, the central banks there, it's the Chinese as well. It seems like there's a movement on to get away from the Anglo currency here and maybe make the world's currency a ruble or a yen.
Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Thank you so very much for tuning in. And my thanks to all of you for subscribing to my backup channel. I'll put the link below this video. You guys know that YouTube continues to try to strangle the alternative news media, particularly SGT Report, with unfounded strikes and shadow banning. So we're going to start posting more material to the backup channel. My thanks to all of you for helping keep SGT Report alive. Subscribe to the backup channel. And friends, as the Democrats try to resuscitate the Russiagate fable with the grilling of Robert Mueller on Wednesday, the 24th of July, a disgusting, spectacular folly, we're going to turn our attention back to the economy, the dollar, gold, and silver. The precious metals are on fire with gold at $14.21 as we're having this conversation today. Silver doing very well at $16.55. And I'm really glad to have back on the line Executive Vice President Dick Walters with Merrifield Mines Limited. Dick has been in the mining industry for 45 years. He's a licensed geologist, and he knows Argentina very well. His own private company there gave birth to Yamana Resources back in the early 90s. And I'm just scratching the surface of his rich and lengthy bio. Dick, thanks for coming back on.
Well, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you. I know you have some good news you wanted to share, so we'll get to that in a minute. But I have some important news that I want to share, and it's the fact that silver is really performing well with a bullish MA crossover, gold performing well around the world. Russia's total gold reserves, it's being reported, now top $100 billion as the central bank there added another 600,000 ounces in June. Gold and silver is really becoming an important story again, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's not only Russia buying gold, the central banks there. It's the Chinese as well. It seems like there's a movement on to get away from the Anglo currency here and maybe make the world's currency a ruble or a yen.
Actually, that's not just tongue in cheek. Let me share this nugget with you. JP Morgan said the other day, we believe the dollar could lose its status as the world's reserve currency. Now, that's no surprise to you, me, or our audience, but it's a bit of a surprise to hear that coming from one of these big international banks headquartered here in the United States. These guys are supposed to be playing ball. I was a little surprised to see that statement from JP Morgan.
Yes, well, I believe it. It looks to me like we're heading in that direction. The dollar's going to crumble, and other currencies will rise to replace it.
There was an article that appeared on Zero Hedge called "Europe is Dying on a Cross of Gold," and it was authored by Tom Luongo, and he's talking about the fact that the euro is in a lot of trouble, and gold is where everybody will turn to help protect themselves from the storm that's coming. I once interviewed Pastor Lindsey Williams. Well, I interviewed him several times, and he always told me that his insider source said that the first thing you need to watch is for the euro to fall. When the euro falters, when the euro begins to crash, the dollar will go within a week or two later. And I think we need to keep our eyes on the euro.
Yes, we do. I saw something the other day where the Swiss has, they're not in the EU, but they've really decoupled their banking from the euro, and they're totally independent currency. They're very nervous about what's going to happen with euros, what I gathered from what I read there.
Well, what do you make of the price action in gold? And do you think it's providing, well, silver too, do you think that the move up in both of these precious metals is providing any sort of breathing room for the mining companies that have been under such assault for so long?
Well, I think it's going to it's going to inject some real life into the mining stocks. There's not enough resources or reserves on the books. It's been languishing the last few years. And all of a sudden, we've got a big price jump, because there's a shift coming in global markets, and the companies are being caught short because of carrying low reserve numbers. So it's going to really inspire these junior companies as well as the majors to get financings done and use that money to find more gold. This is happening right now.
Yeah, and in the interest of full disclosure, I should say I am a Merrifield Mines shareholder, but I haven't bought any in, boy, Dick, I don't know how long it's been since we last spoke, but I haven't bought any in probably more than 6 months, but I am a Merrifield Mines shareholder. So let's talk a little bit about the good news coming out of Merrifield Mines. The company reported a positive opening NI 43101 resource at San Roque. Do you want to talk a little bit about San Roque and talk a little bit about the project in Argentina, will you?
Yeah, San Roque is a project that Merrifield owns together with Nova Gold. Merrifield has 51%. Nova Gold Resources has 49%. And it's been through, a long history. There's been about $8.5 million spent on drilling it. And we came out with the first resource a week ago. It's very positive in terms of the outlook, what it implies. The resource is significant, but what's more significant is that it's open-ended. It's floating in a very large metal ground, metal in ground. So the resource is not reflecting all of the metal that we have seen to be there. So the upside here with continued work is really strong. This property has what we call a very strong metal budget. It's an epithermal gold silver property with a strong base metal presence. So it's looking good at this point for the company to continue expansion of the resources there.
Yeah.
There's about 33 million tons that have been defined by drilling, and the grade is acceptable. It's almost 1.5 grams, and the gold equivalency is about 1.5 million ounces, although gold's only part of that. The other metals, including silver, and very interestingly, indium is very significant here. Indium, of course, is used in the cell phones we're using right now. It's vital. It's a critical mineral for the global electronics industry. So yeah, we're very optimistic that this is going to go forward, and we haven't seen the end of the tunnel here yet.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that it said that there is silver at the property. Wait, what did it say here? Yeah, I thought it was interesting that it said there's important values of silver, indium, and lead at the property. So being a silver bull, that excited me. Being a prospector in Argentina, basically a pioneer there, what are some of the obstacles you've had to overcome over the years? And how does your experience overcoming those obstacles in the past help with what you're facing today as it pertains to Merrifield Mines?
Well, in terms of obstacles, there's been up and down politics in Argentina. There's been socialist government prior to 5 years ago when the country got revived into more of a capitalist system. And that was difficult it was difficult to raise money during that period of time of the Kirchner regime. Now with President Macri there's an election coming up later this year, it looks very favorable for him or his party to win again. It's given us a much more of a lift in terms of being able to get financings done to do the exploration and definition of the property. So the biggest impediment has really been the ups and downs of Argentine politics, and also, of course, when you get languishing metal prices, it's also very difficult to get financing to look for more. But right now, the politics look good, and the price of metals is looking really good.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you this about Argentina? I should have led with this, actually, because I think it's so important. As it pertains to challenges geopolitically, being in Argentina where the inflation rate last year was nearly 50%, they're saying it's going to slow this year in 2019 to 34%. But for folks listening, just imagine living in the United States, guys, if our US dollar lost 50% of its value in purchasing power last year, and this year they're saying it was going to lose another 34 to 35%. Does that have any effect on you guys, or are you able to circumvent their currency and just deal with what, Canadian dollars or US dollars?
Well, we deal primarily in U.S. dollars. Well, actually, in Argentina, almost exclusively. It's the second currency of the country, so to speak. Everything we do, the drilling prices we get, for example, are all in U.S. dollars. A lot of times we end up paying people in U.S. dollars. So it's, it really hasn't had a big effect on what we can do. If anything, it's kind of been positive because things are becoming cheaper and cheaper there.
Right.
So
right. That's exactly what I was thinking. The dollar's going to go only further. Nobody there wants to hold their own currency. I'm sure they much prefer negotiating for dollars.
That's true. That's true. The contracts that we have, work contracts of various kinds, generally specify that the payments will be in dollars. There's always two forms of payments in pesos or payments in dollars. And of course, it generally ends up being in dollars, unless there's some legal reason we have to use pesos.
Okay, so there's good news about San Roque, and one analyst has a price target on this company of 31 cents Canadian, which would be a double from here. Now, this isn't a solicitation to buy or sell any security, and I'm not giving you any investment advice, but I am giving full disclosure that I do own shares in Merrillville. So let me ask you this. Merrillville has a portfolio of assets, Dick, as of course you well know. Are there any other projects you can tell us about?
Yeah, well, we have a 43101 resource on a nickel property. It's called Las Aguilas, which means the eagle in Spanish, and it's in a situation right now where we're trying to find a partner to expand those resources and get some major metallurgical testing done at the same time. So we're actually, it's the largest, and it's the largest because it's the only nickel deposit with any kind of a resource in Argentina. It's a very strategic position to be in. So we're working to advance that property through a partnership. We've had partners in the past, and they've come and gone with the ups and downs of the nickel market. Right now, we have a fairly strong nickel market. It looks like it's on the rise. It's more than 30 or 35% up for the year here. If it continues, I believe we'll be able to secure a partner to help finance the continued work at Las Aguilas. In addition, we have lithium properties in the north of Argentina in the so-called famous lithium triangle. We have some very interesting things happening on one of the properties. There's been a competitor drilling right next door to us. They've come up with a large resource, and that same aquifer that the lithium is in, it's a brine, runs under our property. So we're looking to finance some drilling there right now. I can't give you a secure answer on that in terms of if we'll get it done, but we're trying.
Any updates on El Carmen?
Yeah, very interesting. El Carmen is a unique property. It's an oil or hydrocarbon property. It's got oil and gas on it. It's about a 20 square kilometer property. And we, Merrillville, are not really in the oil business. And we're looking to spin that property out into a subsidiary company, or we're trying to also find a partner, or we're trying to sell it. And we've had some luck in the past in terms of getting agreements together to sell it. We've got more than $500,000 in payments, but the buyer didn't follow through when the bottom dropped out of the oil market a couple years ago. So we still have this property. Very interestingly, it is a mining property that has the oil rights. That situation has to do with how the claims came to be back in the 1920s. before the leasing system was instituted in Argentina. You actually could stake a claim for oil in 1910, 12, and 20. And that's what was done. We bought these claims at a tax sale several years ago. And, we've made money on it in terms of getting payments for partnerships and sales. We're still looking to find a buyer. And we're also putting it into a separate entity now as we speak.
Okay.
So yeah, oh, and by the way, there are 12 wells drilled on that property, and they all have hydrocarbons in them. Not really commercial quantities, but indications that commercial quantities can be found there, particularly in structural traps called drag folds. So we do have drilling targets. We have estimated 6 million barrels at least in terms of a drilling target. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting piece of the portfolio. It's not necessarily the focus, but it's an interesting aside. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do insiders still have a ton of skin in the game with Marifil? I mean, as a shareholder, I'm curious to know, are people buying shares, selling shares? Give us an update.
Well, I know there's been a lot of warrants exercised here in the last 2 months. And right now, I believe the insiders have about 40% of the company. There's a lot of skin in the game here amongst the group of people that are running the company and helping with finance it. So, yeah, it's got a strong insider component, and that component is really supporting the efforts of the company.
All right. Well, in the interest of getting back to the macro picture, let's just round out this discussion with some facts. Our president, who I like very much, especially compared to the witch who, had she been in the White House, I think it would have been the final nail in our coffin, Dick. I've said it many times. I believe it to be 100% true. Even our president is saying maybe we should join this race to the bottom and devalue the dollar to compete with the other nations that are devaluing their currencies. That's just a sucker's game as far as I can tell. Your thoughts on that? Because to me, it means that there's never been a more important or opportune time to buy physical gold and physical silver and mining companies than when the president of the United States says, maybe we'll join the race to the bottom.
Well, I'm not an economist, and I don't know what I could contribute there to what you've said. What I see is that stocks are kind of a high risk thing right now. If there's another crash like in 2008 coming, it would really be nice to own some gold. But yeah, I'm not an economist, so I'm going to deflect that question back to you.
Yeah, that's fine. But we do see what the nation states are doing. You said it at the beginning of the interview. I mentioned Russia's central bank buying gold. You mentioned China buying gold. Other nations are demanding their gold back from central banks. I mean, it's getting serious all over the globe. And those of us paying attention know it's as serious as a heart attack, because when a currency crisis happens, as has happened in Venezuela, as has happened a bit in Argentina, boy, if you're the victim of that currency crisis, your standard of living can go right in the toilet pretty quick.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more there. And Venezuela's been selling their gold just to stay alive, and that is a strong gold-producing country, by the way. There's a number of gold mines there, and they've been nationalized for the most part. So they do have a in-ground source of gold, and what they're doing, mining and selling it to stay alive.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, is there anything about the company? Is there any good news I missed? Anything you want to talk about before we let you go? I can let people know the ticker for this stock, Marifil Mines, is MFM on the TSX Venture, and it's MLF on the OTC in the States. Anything we missed at all, Dick?
Well, I would say that you didn't really miss anything, but I would say that the company's in the strongest position it's been in years, and it's got new leadership, very aggressive leadership. And I believe the stock's going to move in a positive direction with metal prices. If gold and cobalt and nickel go up, I believe that we will benefit from that immensely.
Yeah. And silver. Don't forget silver.
Silver. No, we've got what 14, 15 million ounces defined there at San Roque. So yeah, no, it's great. We're into precious metals. We're into lithium. We're into nickel and cobalt. So we're in all the right things. And we're trying to monetize our oil asset now.
Yeah.
So
Indium, I hadn't heard that one. No, indium.
Indium. Oh yeah, no, indium is really, it was running with the price of silver per ounce. It's per ounce. It's a little lower than silver right now. It's probably 11, maybe 11 and a half bucks. But yeah, indium is used in all electronic products that have touch screens. It's a component in the screens on your computers, your TVs, your phones, and it is a critical element in not only in terms of U.S. needs, but worldwide needs, global. So it's a critical global element, and we've got at least 12 million ounces in the current resource that was just released, and I do expect that to grow as we can move the property more along to maturity. I'm sure we're going to come up with much higher resources, including indium.
Well, you learn something new every day. I hadn't heard of indium, and I certainly didn't know it was trading around 11 bucks an ounce. So that's interesting. I learned about it from the 43-101. All right. Well, Dick, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Guys, our guest has been the Executive Vice President of Merrifield Mines Limited, Dick Walters. Thank you, Dick.
You're welcome, Sean. Nice talking to you. Hope to hear from you again.
Yeah, nice talking with you too. My pleasure. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much, friends, for tuning in. You know how much we appreciate it. As always, this is not investment advice. Do your own research and due diligence before making any investment decision. Check us out at sgtreport.com 24/7 for real news. You can also check us out at thelibertymill.com, which is essentially the Drudge Report of Truth Media, alternative news, Truth Media. I really like the way that site looks, functions, and gives you real-time news all day long, every day, updating itself automatically. It's really a cool site. TheLibertyMill.com, SGTReport.com, and of course, our backup channel on YouTube. Subscribe to that. Guys, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
And we don't want to go into details yet, but I can guarantee this is going to be a shitstorm that hasn't been seen ever before.
So YouTube, now it's up to you. Talk to us.